Hello, I'm here to talk about energy. So, a lot of people have been asking me recently about what it means when I talk about autistic people's first language being an exchange of energy rather than verbal language. So, I want to explain about that a little bit, but I also understand that if it hasn't been a person's experience, it can be a difficult concept to grasp. I'm going to swing on my chair because that's how I feel grounded. So I guess the most prominent conversation that I have with families is when their child, their autistic child, is non-speaking. And it's a common experience to have a toddler when they're non-speaking who does not respond to their name, in the sense that we might call their name and they don't turn around and look at us. This is not our child not hearing us. This is not our child not wanting to engage with us. This is not our child not wanting us around. This is autism. This means that we are so engrossed in our immediate environment that sometimes it's hard for us to remove our focus from what we're currently doing. We are hypersensitive to the energy of other people as well. So what this means is, much like other living beings that don't have the spoken word as their first communication, we can be much the same. So we communicate in other ways, and it's more about comprehension, understanding, receiving information and translating that with our wiring than it is giving output and being expressive. So how that plays out is that when I meet a person, I can already read a lot about that person without them even speaking to me. I can feel into the presence that they bring. And everybody brings an energy. If this isn't something that you experience, that's okay. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or that I'm making it up. It means that I'm an autistic person who has this experience with communication. Now, the thing about energy being our first language is that we can tell things about people that they may not even be conscious of themselves. There can be barriers and walls built up within human beings because of past trauma, because of fears, because of anxieties, for a whole range of reasons. And that is something that we pick up on very, very quickly. It's something I pick up on very quickly. Now, I'm an adult now, so I've had a lifetime of having this experience with other people, and I now 100% trust in that intuition that I have as an autistic person. It doesn't mean that I make assumptions about people or think I know everything about them. It's not about that. It's about an identification, an acknowledgement, a recognition that a person is carrying something with them throughout life. And everybody carries stuff with them. The thing that we run into, though, when we're parenting our children, and this is not exclusive to autistic children, this is about parenting. It's just that with our non-speaking children, when we don't actively use one type of communication, sometimes our other methods of communication may be more finely tuned. So for non-speaking children, they may be even more so hypersensitive to the energy of others. Now, we all know what it feels like when a person comes into a room that we've never met before, never had a conversation with before, never experienced anything with them before, but we can feel that they're angry and we can feel intimidated by them and we can feel that something's off, something's not balanced, it just doesn't feel right. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong or bad about the person. It just means that there is a barrier there because we have felt into their energy, and that will predict how safe or unsafe or how connected or disconnected we feel with that person. The other side of that is having an experience with a person who has this incredibly loving and engaging and soft and calm energy about them. And we don't need to have a conversation with them. We can just be around them and feel that lovely energy that they give off. Children are hypersensitive to this. Autistic children, more so. Also, our children have a direct energetic line that links them and connects them to their parents. So when we are not okay, our energy is disrupted. And our children will reflect that back to us like a mirror image without us even needing to be conscious of what's going on with ourselves. I can get out of bed in the morning and not be having a great time already, and I've only just opened my eyes, and my children will let me know how I'm doing by their behaviour or by the things they say or by how connected to me they are. There will be times throughout our family life where my children create distance between myself and them. And that might be because there's something going on with them or there's something going on with me. And there is a barrier between our energies, or there's something not quite connecting. This really impacts the connection that we have with autistic children, particularly non-speaking. So when we look after our energy, and this isn't always possible because we're human beings and life is ebb and flow and darkness and light, and we have incredibly challenging moments and days and weeks and months and incredibly joyous moments and everything in between. So our energy and the feeling of that for other people fluctuates all of the time. The way that we can look after our energy long term and at a deeper level is to take care of unhealed stuff. Past traumas, fears, anxieties, unrecognized, unidentified neurological differences, neurodivergences. Are we autistic? Are we ADHD? Are we living with mental illness? Do we have physical illnesses that we're not taking care of? How is our health? How is our relationship with ourselves? Now, that's a huge one. That is a huge one that our children really feel into. Now, as a child, I would hide under tables if I was in the presence of another person whose energy felt really unsafe. And they might be talking to me really nicely. In fact, I remember having a situation where I was about 2 years old, and that's not uncommon for autistic people to be able to remember back to, ages that other people cannot remember. A man in the same room speaking kindly and engaging with me on a verbal level, but I could sense something in his energy that was not right, and I did not feel safe. And I remember having other adults encouraging me to engage with him, but I was so energy sensitive that I hid under the table and I wouldn't come out. This can happen a lot with our autistic children. So it doesn't matter about the reassurance that other adults are giving us about particular people. We feel their energy, and energy is undeniable. So it's really important for us to pay attention to and recognise and respect what our children pick up with others. If they don't want to spend time with particular people, there is probably a really good reason for that. If our non-speaking children are not responding to their name, it's not because they don't want us around. It's because they may be more connected to our energy. So the ways in which we can connect with our children is to join them in the parallel sense. So when one of my girls, who is mostly non-speaking, was a toddler, I would sit on the floor with her and I would join her without getting in her space. So energy can feel all-encompassing and consuming and overwhelming when we are little people, because we're still working through all of the sensory bombardment, everything about our environment, and our brains are still developing. And little autistic brains develop very, very quickly, and it can be really overwhelming for us. So we do require a lot of space. I would give her space, I would sit parallel to her, and I would copy the way that she was playing. Because sometimes when we try and join in with our little people, it can feel like an interference and a violation for them, because they might have a plan in mind. They might have a preference for how things look and how they line up and how they go. And sometimes when we try to join them, that might upset them or create anxiety. So we join them in a way that is right for them. And with my little person, that was sitting parallel beside her without speaking. I did not bombard her with sound or verbal communication. I did not pressure her to communicate verbally. So we learn to communicate and join our children in other forms of communication away from the form that we prefer. Because when we do this, we're outstretching our hand and we're saying, I will meet you. I will meet you where you're at. And then in turn, over time, autistic children will be more willing to meet us where we're at. Because the thing is, we are really learning about them, and we're the adults here, so we have a responsibility to explore more about what makes them comfortable. Over time, this meant that she felt more comfortable with me and was able to have the space to read into my energy and understand it, because sometimes the energy of others can feel chaotic as well. It's really important to take responsibility for our own well-being, and I'm not talking about the commercialized, gender stereotypical let's go and wax our legs or get a massage or, get a haircut kind of self-care. I'm talking about addressing grievances that we have in our lives, addressing unhealed wounds, and that is very confronting for us, but it's also extremely powerful in solidifying our connections and our relationship with ourselves and our children. We can start that process by finding a qualified professional that feels safe for us, by talking to a friend that feels safe, by writing, journaling, drawing, singing, walking out in nature and processing. Whatever feels safe for you and whatever feels right for you is okay. But it's important to respect themes that keep recurring in our lives and popping up over and over again, because there is communication in that. And it's really important to address things that are unhealed in order to be able to create safe connections with our children. And as much as it might seem as though those themes are completely separate and disconnected, people will often be really surprised at how their family life changes and dynamics change when we address the things that are left unaddressed in ourselves. I hope I've been able to talk about energy in a way that makes sense today, and it's not a simple topic to talk about or to cover in just a few minutes. If you have any questions or you'd like to know more about this, I'm always at the end of an email at support@intunepathways.com.au.